This episode is presented to you in the form of an audiobook. It's Sunday night. You look back at the week and a familiar sense of disappointment washes over you. You promised yourself you would exercise, but you didn't. You swore you would stop procrastinating on that important project, but you waited until the last possible minute again. You told yourself you wouldn't get drawn into that pointless argument with that specific person, yet there you were saying the exact same things you always say. You know better. That's the most frustrating part. This isn't a lack of information. You are an intelligent person. You can see the pattern from a distance. You can advise a friend on how to avoid this exact same trap. Yet, when it's your turn, you feel like a passenger in your own life, watching yourself steer directly toward the same iceberg time and time again. Why? Why do we keep making the same mistakes, even when we know the outcome will be negative? This isn't just about a lack of willpower or discipline. The answer is much deeper, woven into the very fabric of how our brains are designed to operate. And here we are going to explore the hidden forces that keep us locked in these frustrating cycles. We're going to uncover the invisible scripts and the biological traps that make repeating mistakes feel not just easy, but completely natural. And by understanding these forces, we can finally learn how to take back the controls. The first reason we're stuck in a loop is perhaps the most counterintuitive. We repeat our mistakes because, in a strange way, they are comfortable. Our brain is fundamentally a machine built for one primary purpose: survival. And a key part of survival is energy conservation. Your brain uses about 20% of your body's total energy, more than any other organ. Because of this, it has developed an obsession with efficiency. It creates shortcuts for everything. Think of a habit, any habit, as a path in a dense forest. The first time you do something, like choosing to eat a salad for lunch instead of a greasy burger, you are hacking your way through the wilderness with a machete. It takes effort, focus, and a lot of energy. Your brain has to consciously think about every step, drive to a different place, look at a different menu, resist the familiar smells, and process a new experience. But the mistake? The choice to eat that burger, to skip the gym, to scroll on your phone instead of reading a book? That's not a path. That's a 6-lane superhighway. You've traveled it thousands of times. Your brain doesn't need a map. It doesn't need to spend any energy on the decision. It can run on pure autopilot. This is a concept known as cognitive ease. Our brains have a powerful preference for things that are familiar and easy to process. The familiar mistake, even if it leads to pain and regret later, feels safe in the moment. The pain it causes is a known quantity. You know exactly how you'll feel after eating that junk food or procrastinating for a week. Guilty, bloated, stressed. You've felt it before. It's a familiar, predictable kind of misery. The new, correct choice, however, is full of unknowns. What if I go to the gym and I'm too weak? What if people look at me? What if I start this project and realize I'm not smart enough to finish it? What if I try to eat healthy and I fail, proving I have no self-control? The potential for a new, unfamiliar type of failure or discomfort can feel far more threatening to our survival-oriented brain than the certainty of the old, familiar misery. So we default to the superhighway. We repeat the mistake not because we want the negative outcome, but because the process of making the mistake is easier and feels safer to our energy-hoarding brain than the effortful process of doing something new. We choose the comfort of a familiar hell over the anxiety of an unknown heaven. But it goes deeper than just comfort and laziness. Our brains are also slaves to a powerful chemical messenger, dopamine. We often hear about dopamine in the context of pleasure and reward, but that's a slight misunderstanding. Dopamine is more accurately described as the chemical of motivation and anticipation. It's what drives you to seek out a reward. It's the wanting, not the having. And here's the trap. Our brain's reward system was designed in a world of immediate cause and effect. Our ancestors saw a berry bush, they ate the berries, and they got an immediate reward of energy and sweetness. They saw a threat, they ran, and they got the immediate reward of survival. There was no long-term planning. There was no concept of saving for retirement or studying for an exam that's 3 weeks away. Now, let's apply this ancient wiring to our modern lives. You have a choice. You can spend the next hour working on a difficult report that's due next month, or you can watch a funny video on your phone. The report offers a massive delayed reward, keeping your job, getting a promotion, feeling a sense of accomplishment, but that reward is abstract and far in the future. Your primitive brain has trouble processing it. The funny video, on the other hand, offers a small but immediate hit of dopamine. The anticipation of a laugh, the novelty of the next video in the feed, the colorful stimulation, it's all perfectly designed to trigger that ancient reward-seeking loop. Your brain releases a little bit of dopamine saying, and yes, do that. It feels good right now. Every time you choose the immediate, easy pleasure over the delayed, difficult reward, you are strengthening that neural pathway. You are teaching your brain that the fastest way to get a dose of feel-good chemicals is to give in to the distraction, to eat the cookie, to put off the hard work. The mistake, therefore, isn't just a mistake. It's a highly effective, neurologically reinforced strategy for getting a quick, cheap hit of dopamine. The correct action, like going to the gym, offers a reward that is hours or even months away. The pain is now, the reward is later. The mistake, like sitting on the couch, offers a reward that is now, and the pain is later. In the battle for your immediate attention, the mistake almost always wins because it speaks the ancient language of instant gratification that your brain is hardwired to understand. You're not weak. You're fighting millions of years of evolutionary programming that screams, "Take the reward now." This leads us to what is perhaps the most powerful and invisible force keeping us stuck: our internal scripts. We all have them. Think of them as a set of unconscious rules and beliefs about ourselves and the world. These scripts are written in the ink of our childhood experiences, our traumas, and our triumphs. They form the operating system that runs in the background of our minds, dictating our reactions and choices without our conscious permission. A person who constantly finds themselves in financially irresponsible situations might be running a script that says, "I'm not good with money," or even, "People from my background are always poor." A person who repeatedly enters into relationships with emotionally unavailable partners might be operating on a hidden belief that says, "I am not worthy of stable love," or "Love is supposed to be a struggle." These scripts are not just thoughts, they are deeply held identities. When you find yourself repeating a major life mistake, it's often not a simple error in judgment. It's you unconsciously playing out a role in a story you don't even know you're starring in. Your conscious mind wants a different outcome. You want a healthy relationship, financial stability, a successful career, but your unconscious script is the director of the play, and it will guide you towards scenes and characters that fit its narrative. So you meet someone new. Consciously, you're looking for kindness and stability, but if your script says love is a struggle, your subconscious will be powerfully drawn to the person who is distant, difficult, and provides that familiar feeling of having to work for affection. You will overlook the red flags because to your script, they aren't red flags. They are stage directions. This is why just telling yourself to make a better choice is often completely useless. You are trying to change a single line of dialogue while the entire play remains the same. The mistake isn't the mistake, it's a symptom of the script. You keep repeating it because your identity is tied to the patterns of that script. To break the cycle, you don't just need to change your actions, you need to become aware of the script itself and begin the difficult work of rewriting it. Finally, we have to talk about the story we tell ourselves after we've made the mistake. This is where our ego steps in to protect us, using a powerful psychological mechanism called cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is the intense mental discomfort we feel when we hold two conflicting beliefs, or when our actions contradict our beliefs. For example, you believe, I am a smart, rational person who makes good decisions. But your action is, I just spent all my money on something I don't need for the 5th time this year. This creates a painful clash. Your brain has to resolve this conflict. It has two choices. Either change the belief about yourself, maybe I'm not a smart, rational person, or change the story about the action. Changing the belief about yourself is incredibly painful to the ego. It's a direct attack on your identity. So, the vast majority of the time, the brain chooses the easier path. It rewrites the story about the mistake. It engages in self-justification. You don't say, I made a stupid decision. You say, I deserved a treat. You say, it was on sale, so I was actually saving money. You say, you only live once. Or, in the case of a bad relationship, you don't say, I chose a partner who treats me poorly. You say, they're just going through a tough time. Or, if I love them enough, they'll change. Or, their good qualities make up for the bad. These rationalizations are not just excuses. They are a potent psychological anesthetic. They numb the pain of our poor choices and allow us to maintain a consistent, positive self-image. But this anesthetic has a terrible side effect. It completely prevents us from learning. If you can successfully convince yourself that your mistake wasn't really a mistake, then there is no reason to change your behavior in the future. The cycle is not only preserved, it's justified. You build a fortress of rationalizations around your bad habit, making it almost impossible for logic or evidence to penetrate. You keep repeating the mistake because your own ego has become its most clever and determined defender, working tirelessly to ensure you never have to face the uncomfortable truth of your own actions. So, here we are, trapped by a brain that prefers familiar pain over unknown effort, seduced by the instant gratification of a dopamine hit, directed by invisible scripts from our past, and protected by an ego that rewrites reality to avoid blame. It can feel hopeless. But understanding the mechanics of the trap is the first and most critical step to disarming it. The cycle can be broken. To combat the brain's preference for the familiar, you must consciously and deliberately make the right path easier. This is about reducing what scientists call activation energy. If you want to go for a run in the morning, lay out your running shoes, your shorts, and your shirt the night before. By doing this, you lower the energy required to start. If you want to stop eating junk food, don't just rely on willpower. Remove it from your house. Delete the delivery apps from your phone. Make the mistake harder to access, and the correct choice the path of least resistance. To fight the dopamine deception, you have to create your own reward system. You can't eliminate the desire for instant gratification, but you can hack it. Break down your large, intimidating goals into laughably small steps. Don't aim to write the report. Aim to write one paragraph. When you do it, celebrate that small victory. You are creating a new dopamine loop that rewards effort, not just distraction. This teaches your brain that working toward a long-term goal can also provide immediate feel-good feedback. To address the invisible scripts, you must become an archaeologist of your own mind. This requires radical self-awareness. Start journaling. When you find yourself repeating a pattern, don't just feel frustrated. Get curious. Ask yourself, why? Why did I make that choice? And when you have an answer, ask why again. Keep digging until you hit the bedrock of a core belief. I procrastinated because I was afraid of failing. Why? Because if I fail, it means I'm not smart. Why does that matter? Because I believe my worth comes from being smart. Suddenly, the mistake isn't about laziness. It's about a deeply held, painful belief about your self-worth. Once you make the unconscious conscious, it loses its power. You can see the script for what it is, an old story, not an unchangeable truth. And finally, to disarm the ego's defenses, you must replace self-judgment with self-compassion. The moment you make the mistake again, your instinct is to berate yourself. I'm so stupid. I'll never change. This self-attack is what triggers the ego to build its walls of rationalization. Instead, try a different approach. Acknowledge the action without judgment. I noticed that I ate the cake, even though I planned not to. I feel disappointed. That's okay. I wonder what led me to that decision. This mindful, compassionate approach creates a space for learning instead of shame. It allows you to look at your actions honestly without feeling the need to defend them. Breaking free from our repeated mistakes is not a single heroic act of willpower. It is a quiet, consistent practice of self-awareness. It's about understanding that we are not fighting a character flaw, but a complex system of ancient biology and personal history. By making the right choice easier, by hacking our reward system, by excavating our hidden beliefs, and by treating ourselves with compassion, we shift from being passengers in our lives to being the ones who can finally choose a new destination. The old highways will always be there, but we gain the strength and the wisdom to start building new roads